So welcome i'r Pwyllgor Cyllid ac Adnoddau Cyngor Sir Bwdeistref Conwy. Mi ydyn ni yn bresennol o bell a gael cynghori chi gyd bod y cyfarfod yn cael ei recordio a'i ffrydio yn fyw. Bydd bob microffon yn cael ei ddiffodd oni bai eich bod yn dangos eich bod yn dymuno siarad. Yn dilyn hynny byddaf yn galw eich enw a bydd yn rhaid i chi droi eich microffon ymlaen. Hoffwn atgoffa'r aelodau i ddewis i'w llais cyn i ni gychwyn y pwyllgor a mae groeso chi ddefnyddio'r Gymraeg a'r Saesneg. Os ydych chi'n dymuno siarad, eich bod yn defnyddio'r swyddogaeth codi llaw glas sydd ar eich cyfrifiadur. Gallwch hefyd defnyddio'r cyfleuster sgwrsio, ond gael eich rybuddio chi os ydych chi'n defnyddio hwnnw wrth chi heb a sgwrsio efo fi oherwydd mi fydda i ddim yn medru defnyddio'r teclyn tra dwi'n cadeirio pwyllgor yma. Iawn, dyna ni felly, mi awn ni mlaen efo'r agenda ac yn gyntaf os na ymddiheuriadau am absenoldeb, mae genna un gen y cynghorydd Nigel Smith a mae genna un gen y cynghorydd Goronwy Edwards. Os yna rhywun arall?
Joan Vaughan as well, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. Os na rhywun efo unrhyw un arall? Nag oes? Iawn, oce, ymlaen â ni. Datgan cysylltiad. Os na rhywun efo eisiau datgan unrhyw gysylltiad? Nag oes? Iawn, ymlaen â ni. Materion brys, os na materion brys?
None I'm aware of, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. O'n i ymlaen at y cofnodion. Dwi'n cymryd bod chi gyd wedi'w darllen nhw, gobeithio. A fedrith cyfnodion y cyfarfod y gynhalwyd ar y 4 ar 15 o mis Hydref. Os na rhywun yn cynnig bod nhw'n gywir, ysgolwch chi'n dda. Gwch chi jyst godi llaw. Cynghorydd Aron Wyn, Brian Cosi yn eilio. Ydy pawb yn hapus efo hynny? Diolch yn fawr. Os oes rhywun ddim yn hapus iddo fo siarad rwan, ysgolwch chi dda. Nag oes? Iawn, ymlaen â ni. Reit, os cwestiynau i'r aelodau cabinet?
No, none we're aware of, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. Reit, a ffwrdd ni at yr agenda ta eitem 6 a cofrestr risgiau gorfforaethol a cofrestr materion corfforaethol. A mae hon yn cael ei arwain gan Fran Lewis. Fran, are you there?
I am indeed. Bore da. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all keeping well. I'm just going to turn my video off because I need to look down at my notes and the broadband is not that brilliant from Anglesey. So there we are, get the Conway logo instead. So if I can take members to page 12 of the agenda pack. The first thing I want to point out to members is the fact that the Corporate Risk Register was reviewed and was ready to present to democracy back in March, but obviously for reasons we're all fully aware of, that didn't take place. So I just want to give reassurance to members that the risk register has been updated since March, but that was done by undertaking a review with the leader, chief exec and strategic directors, as well as the usual governance team. And we did invite updates out from every risk owner. So it's as up to date as it possibly can be. The other area I want to draw to your attention is on the bottom of page 13, going on to page 14 of the agenda pack. And that is a COVID statement that we have drafted. We did start to look through every corporate risk and reconsider it in light of COVID, as you would expect. But we concluded that it was better to have an overall statement that you can read there about the significant impact COVID is having on operational delivery and our finances. And there is a risk that we do not manage our way out of the pandemic as best as possible. I won't read it word for word. I'm sure you've all read it prior to the meeting. There is one amendment that I want to draw to your attention, and that's the first bullet point where we've written that vulnerable people have poorer health outcomes and potentially dying. We are actually going to amend that statement. It's actually around the fact that we have a desire to minimise unavoidable illness and death as much as possible for everybody, not just vulnerable people. And also we'll be adding an additional bullet point there, which is about the recognition that vulnerable people's conditions may well be exacerbated as a consequence of the pandemic. So we will be making that amendment after scrutiny today. Within the cover report, we have highlighted the most significant changes. The first being around our corporate issues. You can see there that we have two new corporate issues. The first being the ash dieback, which has been transferred from the corporate risk register. So we were monitoring that, but it has now realised into an issue for the authority. And the second is around schools and other departments not using our facilities management expertise. So we're just going to be monitoring compliance with that. The other positive point, and I know it seems bizarre to say it this way, but we do have one corporate issue that's transferring from an issue to a risk, and that's to do with mental health. I think members are all aware of the changes that have happened within the mental health service, and that is a positive thing that we are now monitoring that as a risk as opposed to an issue, because we are monitoring the likelihood of concern rather than it being an issue and being a reality and with us. So that is positive. The other points I want to draw out to you are the new risks. So they're on page 45 within your pack. So we've got a number there, the first being the risk that we do not deliver the ambitions of the economic growth strategy. We have a new risk about being able to maintain business as usual whilst we're dealing with COVID response. There's also a risk that the reallocation of audit resource to support the pandemic has a significant impact on internal audit work. A new risk around test, trace and protect, functioning to the best of its ability, and a new risk that we're unable to maintain business as usual, and that we have flexibility from our external agencies to help us adapt to the current situation. So they are the new risks. Taking you back, sorry to jump about, to page 39 of the pack, there's a summary of all our existing risks. Again, I won't go through them in detail, but Janice has highlighted the changes in blue within this summary. And what I mainly wanted to point out to you is that where there are changes there highlighted in blue, they're mainly about reducing the risk score, which is a positive thing, or changing the risk description, or merging the risk descriptions. And you'll note there that some risks have been transferred back to the service risk register, which again is a positive thing in that we feel confident that they can be monitored at a service level as opposed to a corporate level. So they're the main points that I wanted to highlight rather than going through them line by line. So I'll open up to questions if that's okay, Chair.
Yes, diolch yn fawr, Fran. Thank you for your report. Right, Sgynna I ddim dwylo I fyny ar hyn o bryd. Os ar rywun isio gofyn cwestiwn neu gwneud rhyw fath o sylw? No, I've got nobody. If you want to continue, Fran.
Oh, Councillor Andrew Wood has raised his hand.
Oh, he's just put his hand up. Councillor Andrew Wood.
Are we to discuss the risk status reports now? Can we actually go into the other reports that are attached to it? So, for instance, on page 105, we're talking about ash dieback. It says there's a revenue business case for 150,000 submitted. I seem to remember that we did a business case for 400,000 last year. So, am I wrong, or has that money been used for something else?
Fran, would you like to come in?
And also at that point, the development and implementation of the dieback action plan has not been started yet.
I'm not aware of the current situation with business cases, I'm afraid. I'd have to go back to the service unless Andrew can enlighten us.
Andrew, would you like to come in?
Yeah, can't remember precisely how much the business case was last year for the year we're now in, but it certainly wasn't 400, Andrew. I think it was 150, but I need to look it up, but it certainly wasn't 400, Andrew.
Unmute yourself, Andrew.
Aye, I have done.
Not you.
Sorry, I seem to
the
remember
other Andrew.
The business case that asked for was 400,000. So just interested to see that Simon Billington hasn't started an action plan yet. I was talking to Till Hill and National Resources Wales. They've started a plan to take some of the trees down in January. So that was one interest one. The next one would be page 133, which again is not started. That is the risk that construction activities are not compliant. Something that Stephen Teal's doing, develop an action plan. There's a couple of things there. Start date doesn't seem right, 12th of the 11th, 2021. And I'm just wondering why those aren't started. I think Jane's the lead director on that one, so whether she can actually tell me what's that there. Because part of it is upgrading an asset management system. So these are the construction activities not compliant. So I think there's some information on that, please.
Does anybody want to answer, Councillor Wood? Fran? Or Jane? Jane Richardson?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I need to get information from the team on that. I'm sorry, I haven't got the detail. I was wondering, Councillor Wood, whether on the ash dieback issue, whether it might be worth an update coming on that to economy in place scrutiny, actually, because it's it's an important piece of work that's moving ahead, and I think probably it'd be helpful for members to be updated on what's being done.
That would be good. That would be good. Just for Fran to note, I'm sure that date's wrong. The start date, obviously, it's 2021, but if that can be corrected there as well, yeah. And
I'll just chase that up. Sorry, Councillor Wood. It may just well be an inputting error.
Okay, but if Jane can comment on this report that Stephen Teal's supposed to bring on the asset management system, the update on that, please, yeah. It worries me when I see things from 19 that says not started.
Yeah, as I said, Councillor Andrew, I'm not up to date on that. I'd need Geraint Edwards to be able to update me on that. Okay.
So if we can bring it back.
If I could just comment with regard to the ash dieback, there is a report due to come to economy in place in the not too distant future, which I think will answer Councillor Andrew Wood's questions. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to hit, but it will be in the very near future.
Okay, Andrew, Councillor Wood, do you want us? Are you happy? Thank you. Okay then, Fran, do you want to continue?
Sorry, yes. Well, basically, if there's no further questions, it's moving to the recommendation.
Okay, right. Is somebody willing to propose that we go with recommendation, please?
Yeah, Chairman, was the recommendation in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Harry. And I see Brian Cossey had his hand up, so I take it he's willing to second it. Yes, he is. Okay then, Sally.
Yeah, so 4 against or abstain. So Councillor Phil Capper,
For.
Councillor Jeff Corrie,
For.
Councillor Brian Cossey, Councillor Brian Cossey,
Yeah, for. Sorry.
thank you. Councillor Pauline Heap-Williams,
For.
Councillor Andrew Hinchliffe,
For.
Councillor Chris Hughes,
For.
Councillor Wyn Ellis-Jones,
Obliged.
Councillor Peter Lewis,
For.
Councillor Anne McCaffrey,
For.
Councillor Dave Rees,
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts,
Obliged.
Councillor Harry Saville,
For.
Councillor Andrew Wood,
For.
and Councillor Aaron Wynne.
Obliged.
Yeah, that's carried, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr Sally a diolch yn fawr I Fran. Right, we'll move on to the next item. Yr item nesaf ydy y fargen dwf derfynol ac yn cyflwyno hwn ar y cyd fydd Jane Richardson, Delyth Jones, Andrew Kirkham ac Alwen Williams a Hedd Evans o Bwrdd Uchelgais Economaidd Gogledd Cymru. Gai groesawu y ddau o'na chi, Alwen a Hedd, i'r cyfarfod. Drosodd ata chi.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Thank you very much. I think, Sally, are you or somebody from committee is going to present the slides, please?
Yes, Dawn will be sharing it shortly on the screen.
Thank you. So it is going to be a bit of a team effort this morning in presenting, with each of us taking a different part of the presentation. And Dawn, if we could go to the start of the presentation, please. So this is what we've been working towards for, well, best part of 4 years now, and this is the big day where you get to scrutinise the supporting arrangements around the growth deal in order for us to agree whether we are able to proceed and then sign the deal next month with both governments. Just to remind you, if we can go to the next slide, that this is a partnership between all 6 local authorities, both universities and both colleges. And there's also been very, very close involvement from the North Wales Mersey Dee Business Council as the representatives of the private sector. If we could move on, the growth deal is one of the main delivery mechanisms for the growth vision, the economic growth vision for the region. And that vision is for North Wales to be a confident, cohesive region with sustainable economic growth, capitalising on the success of high-value economic sectors and the connections to the economies of the Northern Powerhouse and Ireland. So it's a very much outward-looking vision, linking us in with wider economic opportunities. And I think it's important to remember, and we make this point throughout the report, that the vision is much bigger than the deal. So that the growth deal is one very specific tool we can go to for capital programmes on the high value sectors. But there are all sorts of other economic programmes and funding streams that we can access to deliver against this vision. And one of the main benefits that I've seen, and I think the leaders who've been involved have also seen, is that we have a new confidence as a region and a new sort of collaborative arrangement, which puts us in a much better position to be able to access funding for other economic activities, whether those be for skills, transport, or the shared prosperity funding that's coming to replace European money. And I think that's one of the really, really big wins from all of this work. It's taken us 4 years to get to the deal, but the 4 years hasn't just been about that. That 4 years has built a platform to enable us to take advantage of all sorts of other economic opportunities. So in terms of the growth vision, it's all looking about being much more connected, being much smarter, and we have a whole range of programmes that will deliver against the key principles in order to grow our economy from 13.6 billion when we started this journey in 2016 to 26 billion by 2035. In terms of how we deliver this, if we move on, we have developed a governance structure which is giving us a really robust framework for delivering not just, as I say, on the deal, but to deliver wider economic opportunities. So it's all overseen by the North Wales Economic Ambition Board, and as you know, our leader attends the board monthly with meetings in between, and that's where the direction is set and the key decisions that are delegated to the board are made. That board is supported by an executive group, and we are the professional officers who are able to ensure that the board has the information and the reports, whatever it needs to be able to fulfil its functions. And I represent Conway Council on that group. And there are two sort of separate groups that link to it. One is the business delivery group, which is the private sector representation, comprising a wide range of businesses, everything from Airbus to Watkin Jones sit on that group. And then there's the regional skills partnership, because almost everything we do on the economy has a skills dimension to it. And so the regional skills partnership ties in very tightly. You'll be hearing later, Alwyn and Hev will talk you through the programmes of the growth deal, but there are 5 of those and each of it has its own board. So we have low carbon energy, digital, land and property, innovation in high value manufacturing, and agri-food and tourism. And the different leaders take the role of representing the board on each of those specific programme boards. And our leader is on the agri-food and tourism programme board, and I'm the senior responsible officer for that programme for the region as a whole. And then each programme has a number of projects reporting into it, and those projects have their own boards that you've got scrutiny, governance, etc., operating at all those different levels: project level, programme level, and then at portfolio level through the Ambition Board. If we could move to the next slide, this is something we shared with those of you who were able to attend the briefing. You might be familiar with this, but the journey of this deal goes back to 2016, and by pure coincidence and good fortune, the whole thing coincided with me taking up this job in Conway. So one of the first things I had to do was join my regional colleagues in starting to develop that growth vision. And we did that in September 2016. It was at that point where the Chancellor opened, the UK Chancellor, opened up the opportunity for us to be able to apply for a growth deal. We then had to go through various processes, challenges, before the UK government committed to developing a growth deal with us. They announced that in 2018. We then needed to work through the detail of what projects and programmes might form that growth deal, and those were all developed in conversations with both governments, and we started to put governance around it. So that by 2018, we were bringing through this scrutiny committee and cabinet proposals for Governance Agreement 1, which was what got us to the position where we could sign a heads of terms agreement. We got to heads of terms finally this time last year, and again that came through this committee. And then having signed that at the end of last year, we had a year to then develop all the specifics in order to get to final deal. So heads of terms was the contractual agreement that said yes, the governments would put in the 240 million between them, but we then had to make the case for what those projects would be to benefit from that funding. And that's what we've been doing this year. And there's been a whole process around it with various assurance reviews and policy input from the two governments. So enormous amount of work behind the scenes. And I would like to pay tribute to our hugely dedicated and hardworking colleagues in the programme office who have put in extraordinary hours through the summer and autumn to do all the work that was necessary to meet this deadline of this for the deal in December. If we go to the next slide, what we've had to do, there's a process within government. I had no idea about this until we started on this whole journey, but there are these 5 case business models, and you have to look at financial case, an economic case, a commercial case. So you can't just make one business case for it, you have to do 5 of them from a different perspective to argue for what the benefits would be. And you have to do that for the whole portfolio. And then you have to do that each of those 5 cases for each of the programmes. That's why it's been such a lot of work. So the portfolio business case demonstrates how the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, how all of these programmes will come together to achieve those ambitions for North Wales. And then the 5 programme business cases demonstrate how low carbon energy, digital, land and property, high value manufacturing and agri-food and tourism will deliver the outputs that we have said we will deliver for North Wales. That whole process is governed by what's known as the Green Book, which is set out by government, and it's a recognised model that any government investment has to follow. If we can move forward. So the actual delivery of the deal itself is captured within the business plan. This summarises the overall portfolio business case, and it explains how the deal will be delivered. So everything from how the financing will work through to the team that are needed to deliver it, and how it will be, what the governance around it. So all of that sits in the business plan, and that is a live document that we will keep coming back to and refreshing as we progress through the deal. If you think this is going to be 15 years, economics will change. Just think how much the economy has changed this year. So we need to be able to be agile and flexible. And so our business plan will flex, and the ownership for that business plan will sit with the portfolio director, with all of us as regional colleagues coming in to support. In doing this business plan, there has to be quite sophisticated economic modelling, and in order to do that, we commission specialists, a company called Hatch Regeneris, who are one of the country's leading independent economics consultancies. And so that's given the board a lot of confidence that the figures around these programmes are well evidenced, and that there is a strong foundation for going forward with the programmes. If we can go forward. Thank you, Dawn. So in terms of what the deal is aiming to deliver, it's about a vibrant, sustainable and resilient economy in North Wales, really building on our strengths to boost productivity. We know we've got a productivity challenge here in North Wales, and doing that while tackling long-term challenges and economic barriers to growth. So the whole idea about it is that it is inclusive, sustainable, that it is integrated and dispersed across the whole of the region, that all parts of the region benefit, even though there are differences in the way the economies of North Wales work. It is scalable across the whole region, and being done very much in the spirit of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Wales Act. The beauty of the deal is that by attracting the government funding, 120 from each government, that enables us to bring down private sector investment. And if you can see the ratio there, so 240 million of public money from government, that is then attracting 722 million from the private sector. And then there's an additional 184 that comes from the other public sector partners, the colleges, the universities and ourselves, in order to make the whole thing work. And so we are looking at a total investment for North Wales of 1.1 billion. This is on a scale we've not seen before. And this is what makes it the real game changer in terms of getting that sustainable long-term growth. So what does that mean to us in Conway? If we can move forward. I think we're just in such an exciting position for this, because we're right bang in the middle. Everything that is delivered within this growth deal is within reach of our residents and our businesses. It's going to be fantastic. You'll hear in a minute, Haven Alwen will tell you a little bit more about the programmes and projects, but each of those is going to offer jobs, high quality, really exciting, valuable jobs that our residents can access, whether they're right here in the county, whether they travel east and west. Similarly, unprecedented supply chain opportunities, such a range of different projects. Our businesses will be supported to be able to access those opportunities, and it will enable all of those supply chain businesses to be able to grow and adapt, take on additional staff, bring on apprentices, etc., because they can supply what's happening to the east and west of them. A big win is going to be the digital connectivity. Digital is such a huge theme of this deal. Plus, we've got a separate funding within the overall growth vision. We've got separate funding through DCMS, Department of Culture, Media and Sport, in order to deliver improved digital connectivity. So we're going to find homes and businesses and public sector facilities all with much better connectivity, making it easier to do business from our part of the world. And you know, we've really seen the importance of that during this last few months when people want to be able to work from home. It's going to give people so many more choices about being able to stay in this region. People won't need to leave to get great jobs. They won't need to leave Conway, because there will be new jobs around them, and they'll be able to access jobs from home because of the digital opportunities this programme will bring. Of course, we've got specific projects landing here in Conway County. The biggest is the flagship tourism academy that will be built in Ross-on-Sea, really consolidating our position as the tourism leaders of the region, but also energy projects, land-based projects within the county coming within the next few years, but also over the 15-year lifetime of the deal. There will be things that we haven't even thought of yet, land-based projects, that we will be able to bring forward within the lifetime of this deal as the funding that comes into the deal gets recycled, and more projects come online. One of the bits I'm most passionate about, I'm just so looking forward to seeing this come through, are the new facilities, research and specialist support for our agriculture and food and drink sectors. I won't steal Hare's thunder, but this stuff we're going to be doing on agri-food is going to be sector leading. It is going to be fabulous, and our county is such a buoyant, dynamic county in this food and agricultural sector, and we're going to be able to access research that we've never had before, facilities. They're going to be amazing opportunities for growth for these businesses, and I really hope our rural communities, when they hear more about what's coming at Glencleven and Llysfassi, are going to be really energised about those opportunities. We'll have a more skilled workforce, and all of the above will lead to a higher standard of living. Our average salaries will increase as a result of the new job opportunities, the higher value jobs, the better opportunities for business. All of that is going to raise the standard of living for our residents over the lifetime of this bid. And then the biggest win of all, perhaps, is the confidence, the structures I talked about for future investment. There is a lot of money about to come to North Wales beyond this, the shared prosperity, etc. We're going to be able now to play with the big boys and really attract money into North Wales and into Conway for the kind of initiatives that we want to see developed over the coming years. Perhaps I could pass on at this point. Alwyn or Heather, I'm not sure which of you wants to pick up here, but would you start talking us through the programmes, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Jane. I'll just do a really quick overview of the programmes, and then we're going to take you through a slide per programme between Heather and myself over the next few minutes. So the growth deal in its entirety is based on delivery of 14 transformational projects, and these projects sit across the 5 programmes that you see on the slide in front of you, and Jane's already mentioned. The programmes have been defined as either programmes that address the high growth sectors or enabling programmes. The key driver programmes address the areas in the economy that are high value and foundational sectors, and the enabling programmes tackle and address long-term barriers to growth, and therefore make it easier for us to attract investment into North Wales. Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, my screen went blank there. Both of these are at the heart of the North Wales Growth Deal. It's important also to mention the skills and employment and the strategic transport programmes. Both of these sit outside of the growth deal, so they're not directly funded by the growth deal, but both remain hugely important to the economic ambition for North Wales, and we're working closely with the Regional Skills Partnership and through the Transport Subcommittee Subboard to identify alternative funding options for both these programmes. If I hand over now to Heath, Heath will take you through the first 3 of the 5 programmes. Heath.
Diolch yn fawr, Elwen. Bore da pawb. So starting with the low carbon energy programme, which is the largest programme within the growth deal. This programme aims to unlock the economic benefits of transformational low carbon energy projects and position North Wales as a leading UK location for low carbon energy generation, innovation and supply chain investment. It consists of 5 projects. We have the Morlais Tidal Energy Project in Anglesey. We have the Low Carbon Centre of Excellence project working with Bangor University. We have the Trosolwg Power Station project looking at the future of that site and the use of advanced nuclear reactors and modular nuclear reactors. We have the Smart Local Energy project, which is a regional project looking to unlock stalled projects around smart grids and community energy projects across North Wales. And finally, the Transport Decarbonisation project, which is looking primarily at a pilot project for generating green hydrogen for large vehicle use in the Deeside area. If we move on to the next slide, I'll quickly go through the next programme, which is the Innovation in High Value Manufacturing programme. So this programme is seeking to consolidate North Wales's position as a powerful and innovative high value manufacturing cluster, building on existing specialisms and leading expertise to create a higher value, more diverse economic base that supports the transition to a low carbon economy. And this programme includes 2 research and development based projects. We have the Centre for Environmental Biotechnology with Bangor University, which is looking specifically at the use of enzymes in industrial practices. And we have the Enterprise Engineering and Optics Centre with Glyndŵr University, which is looking at 3 elements around optics, composites and hydrogen fuel cell development, specifically looking at how those technologies can be commercialised and adopted in North Wales. If we move on to the next slide, please. So next we have the Agri Food and Tourism programme. So this programme is aiming to build a more sustainable, vibrant and resilient foundational economy within the region, optimising opportunities for employment and prosperity through our environment and landscape. We have 3 projects in this programme. We have the Glynllifon Rural Economy Hub, which is a centre of excellence looking primarily at innovation in the food and drink sector and providing that support to businesses and new businesses across North Wales. We have the Llysfasi Carbon Neutral Centre, which is looking at the future of agriculture, particularly the use and the adoption of technology, but also low carbon land management. And finally, the Tourism Talent Network, as Jane mentioned earlier, which is looking to address some of the longer term skills challenges facing the sector in North Wales. Thank you, Diolch. I'll hand back to Alwen just to run through the next 2 programmes.
Thank you, Heath. Diolch, Heath. And the next programme is the Land and Property programme. This programme seeks to address shortage of suitable land and properties for business growth and to bring forward sites for housing development, to deliver improvements that stimulate investment in site and premises and in the Port of Holyhead and the wider region. And the programme plays an enabling role for other programmes by ensuring the right land and property infrastructure is available. The programme includes the Holyhead Gateway project, which is a large investment in the development of the Holyhead port and surrounding area, and also the land and property project, which initially comprises of 5 strategic sites across North Wales, which are Wrexham Gateway, Warren Hall in Broughton, key strategic site in Bodol Witham,
Wedi dal na Alwen? Ydyn ni yn edrych fel bod ni wedi colli Alwen. Ga I ofyn I Hedd gymryd drosodd, os gwelwch yn dda?
Dim problem, Cadeirydd, na I bigo fyny. Apologies all, I'll pick up where Alwen left off. So the final sites, the key strategic site in Bodol Witham and the former North Wales Hospital in Denbigh and Parc Bryn Cegin in Bangor. So those are the initial sites. Our expectation is that we will be able to recycle funds through this programme, which would enable further sites to be picked up during the life of the 15-year programme. If we move on to the next slide, finally but not least, the digital programme for North Wales, aiming to deliver the step change in digital connectivity needed to ensure North Wales is able to satisfy user demand, maintain pace with the rest of the UK, unlock the growth potential of priority sectors and sites, and underpin a flourishing innovation ecosystem. Again, this programme plays an enabling role for other programmes to deliver maximum benefit. And it consists of 5 projects. So we have full fibre at key sites across the region, key business sites. We have a connected campuses project and a connected corridor project, looking at the potential of full fibre and 5G infrastructure to support growth in the region. And finally, connecting the last few percent, which looks specifically across North Wales at those properties, both business and residential, that do not have access to super fast broadband of 30 megabits and that are essentially unviable for the private sector to supply without public sector intervention. So that project looks at connecting those last few premises. And finally, we have an innovation-based project, which is the Digital Processing Centre of Excellence with Bangor University. Thank you. I think that's the last slide. I'm not sure who I'm handing over to at this point. Is it Andrew?
It is. So there's 2 slides which try to explain the financial requirement for the local authorities, including Conway, and the grant that's coming in. You heard about the 240 million. Will be coming in at a slower pace than the capital expenditure will be incurred. So the lead authority for financing this, Gwynedd Council, will have to borrow as the schemes progress, which means there'll be a cash flow cost for us all to contribute towards. That's the principles of that. In terms of the next slide, Dawn, this gives the potential cost to Conway and everybody else, and the first table just gives the 15-year cost, so don't get too hysterical about the £1 million there. What we're really looking at is the middle slide, which says that our contribution towards this cash flow, it's called version 1 and version 2, but I suppose in reality it's scenario 1, scenario 2, because if we can land the deal before the end of December, then we revert to what it says there, version 1, and there'll be an annual and recurring revenue cost for Conway of 78,000. If we're all unable to get it over the line, then it'll be a little bit higher at 111. And as I say, that's our contribution to the borrowing in advance of the grant coming in, shared on population. The slide below just confirms the already budgeted for annual and recurring contribution to provide the expertise that you're seeing in front of you today in terms of developing and supporting the overall project. And I guess it just needs to be clear that once we sign the deal, and I'd be dying to say this, we can't say I'm a local authority, get me out of here, because we'll be tied in with the other partners for the length of the growth deal. And as your Section 151 officer, I fully endorse and hope that you support what is a modest investment from Conway with potentially absolutely fantastic returns over the coming years. Thank you.
Dennis, I think you're next.
I am, thank you very much. I hope you will indulge me while I go through the three little points on the slide in some detail. It's short bullet points, but behind that lies an awful lot of really important information which I think should be shared with you today. As Jane mentioned, we entered into the first governance agreement in December 2018, which was a partnership between the local authorities and the education establishments in the anticipation that the growth bid would actually progress. We are now at the stage where we can move forward with the implementation, and to do that we need to enter into a second agreement, the GA2, to govern how that relationship works. The North Wales authorities, all six, have already formed a joint committee comprising all six leaders. That joint committee can make decisions with some exceptions which need to come back to individual councils to decide. But it's only the six local authorities who can actually vote in joint committee. So the education partners are there as advisors and to give views, but will not be able to vote. This is one of the strange anomalies that we have within local government legislation. So the idea really is that we would try and make sure that all decisions are fair to all parties, and that basically we're all in it together. Another anomaly is that the joint committee can take decisions, but it's not a separate legal entity, and therefore can't do things such as employing staff. So to overcome that, we have a host authority, which in this case, as mentioned, is Gwynedd, who will enter into contracts, hold cash and assets, and employ staff and deal with the administrative and committee functions of the project and the accounting functions. Again, this is a common situation when local authorities work together. Gwynedd will also be the accountable body, so basically will act as the intermediary between the other parties, us five and the education organisations and the funders. It will sign the final deal agreement and accept the grant offer letter. So in order to safeguard Gwynedd's position, there will be indemnities from the other parties to Gwynedd, again, which is completely normal. So for example, if Conway or Denbighshire defaulted on any of the terms of the agreement, Gwynedd would be on the hook for it with the funders, but there would be an indemnity that Denbighshire or Conway would have to indemnify Gwynedd for that breach or default. So basically, in order to make the project work, we all have to go into this with an attitude of trust and cooperation. It'll take some time for the projects to bed in, but the emphasis, as Jane mentioned, is very much on North Wales as a region rather than individual areas. So wherever the projects happen, the benefit will be across the region as a whole. For the first 6 years, there's a lock-in period, which means that no party can withdraw. After 6 years, a party can decide to leave, but there are financial penalties, which give security and safeguards to all the parties. So within GA2, there are comprehensive provisions to ensure that the remaining parties aren't suffering as a result of another party deciding to walk away. So basically, we're in it for the 15 years. Lots of the governance provisions were in GA2, have been repeated which were in GA1, have been repeated in GA2. but there's some additional matters in there which you need to be aware of. GA2 is probably the driest document you would read, especially when it's supposed to reflect all the exciting projects. It's a very dry document, but it's probably one of the most important agreements that we'll ever enter into as well. So it's important that you're aware of what it contains. There are provisions for a business delivery board, which is to ensure collaboration with the private sector. This is a sort of stakeholder group to advise and to challenge the work of the board. Both UK and Welsh governments are very keen to see this, and you'll have seen from the financial figures, the inputs financially from the private sector is quite phenomenal. As you'd expect, the GA2 deals with the financial contributions, which Andrew has touched on. There's also the delegations which we'll need now that we're moving into the delivery phase. So, for example, the board will have the power to approve business cases and determine if new projects come into the programmes, but these must be in accordance with the parameters set out in the overarching business plan. So the board can't go off on a folly of its own with something which has never been mentioned and outside what would be expected to be delivered. But very importantly, any decisions which require increased or additional funding from the partners will be matters reserved to the partners, so they would come back to individual authorities. So you wouldn't be in a position where suddenly you have to find another 10 million on the say-so of the board and you'd never heard of it or had a discussion about it. So that's a very important safeguard for not just Conway, but for all the local authorities. I want to touch on scrutiny, seeing as we were in scrutiny committee this morning. There's been an awful lot of discussion between the 6 monitoring officers around the scrutiny function for the board and the project. There were basically 2 options. We could have created a joint scrutiny committee with representatives from all 6 local authorities, or keep the status quo where each local authority retained its scrutiny function back at the ranch and would look at the work of the board individually. And the decision has been made now to stick with the status quo. So no joint scrutiny committee, but individual scrutiny committees in each local authority. In terms of process, that's been quite a challenge to get a system which is workable, because you could imagine a situation where a decision by the board is called in by all 6 local authorities, which would be a nightmare to administer, really. So there are 2 elements to the scrutiny function. The first is that quarterly reports will be presented to the scrutiny committee, setting out the work undertaken by the board and giving updates on the growth vision. So that's basically normal scrutiny. You get the reports, you have a look what they're doing. You've also got the issue of call-in, which is over and above that. So we have devised a system which we hope will work and is very much based on the scrutiny system of call-in which we have now. So when the board makes a decision, it will be published and sent to the heads of democratic services and then published in each local authority so that every member of each local authority will know what's been decided. There's then 5 days for call-in. Other authorities are informed if the call-in has taken place in one local authority. You have a scrutiny meeting within 15 days. It can't be called in more than once, and reconsideration of the issue by the board can't be subject to call-in, exactly almost like we have with the cabinet decision. So it can be called in. If it goes back, it can't be called in again. There's detailed provisions around who can attend, etc. But if scrutiny is still concerned about the decision, then they can refer it back to the board for reconsideration, setting out in writing why they are concerned about it. The board would then reconsider it, but it can't be called in again, as I said. There are also provisions for urgency, again, as we have. And one of the examples is if a delay is likely to seriously prejudice the work of the decision body or other public interests. So it's very much on a par with the scrutiny that we have already, which I think will give members some comfort. And finally, I just want to touch on conflicts of interest, which is a new provision within GA2. Obviously, the leaders will all be subject to the Members' Code of Conduct, which is very comprehensive in terms of dealing with any conflicts of interest and needing to declare interests, etc. But some of the other partners and parties will not have the same protocols in place. So we have developed a conflict of interest policy, which basically reflects the same sort of issues as within the Code of Conduct, where they will need to declare if there's something which is going to be a conflict for them. So it's very important because this will ensure probity, and also this was something which was supported very strongly by the two governments as well. So we need to make sure that it's within the spirit of what local Welsh and UK governments wanted. So that's a very quick run through of the governance agreements, which will hopefully be the framework for these exciting projects moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. I think Alwyn's back with us. Alwyn, if you're there, do you want to talk us through the details about how we get to final deal and what the next steps, key dates are?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, and apologies about that. I lost my my connection. Yeah, so if we can, I can't see the slides at the moment. So if we move on to the slide called Draft Final Deal Agreement, and just to run through what the final deal agreement is. It is an agreement that's been developed collaboratively between the Economic Ambition Board and both governments. It's the contract that exists between the three parties and defines the delivery of the growth deal. The final deal agreement is signed on the basis of the portfolio business case that we have submitted and the 5 programme business cases. Those are in the process at the moment of going through 5 weeks of assurance with Welsh Government Treasury called the Accounting Officers Review. Last week we received the first set of feedback, or a set of feedback from Welsh Treasury based on their overview of the portfolio business case. And we have responded this week with our comments in relation to that feedback. That process now is entering the final few weeks. So hopefully we will have been able to receive and share our own feedback over the next few weeks as that concludes the process. The contents of the final deal agreement will continue to be developed between both governments and in tandem with the partners' decision-making process. And the document will be refined over the next few weeks. Discussions are ongoing with both governments on the final content and form of the final deal document, with some changes expected. So we will work through those changes. The provisional date we've secured with both governments at the moment for signing the deal is before Christmas. So we have a good few weeks now to ensure that everything is in place ahead of that date, and also in accordance with all of the details within the business cases we've presented Treasury being satisfactory. If we move on to the final slide before we open up for questions, this slide just shows an overview of where we are in the process of getting agreement. This week we have the final, so that final yellow block signifies this session we're in with Conwy today, and the final in the series of scrutiny committees. We have already started Cabinet and full council with other local authorities, and that process concludes on the 10th of December with a final full council meeting. The Economic Ambition Board then meet on the 11th of December. And as I said, we are extremely hopeful that we will get to be able to sign a final deal, assuming everything is satisfactory before Christmas. A hugely important piece of news for North Wales. And that's the end of the slide. So, Chair, if I hand back to yourself, and be happy to take some questions.
You're muted, Austin.
Iawn, sori, mae'n ddrwg iawn gen i. Ffarmwr cyffredin a technoleg modern ddim yn cydweithio, mae gen i ofn. Iawn, diolch yn fawr i chi, Alwen, diolch i Jane, diolch i Hedd, diolch i Andrew, a diolch i Delys. Reit, mae gen i bobl a'i llaw i fyny. Yn gyntaf, mae gen i'r cynghorydd Peter Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. And can I thank those that presented the report this morning. I think, you know, it illustrates really how timely it is, and also I think how clearly it's been set out in that report. I'd like to hope too that the success of this deal will perhaps encourage government to perhaps put more money for local government to develop schemes in the future. I think, as Dennis pointed out, I think it's very welcome that scrutiny is going to be referred back to respective ranches. I think that's most important. And I also welcome the clarity of the governance arrangements. I've just got a couple of questions or queries really in terms of the benefits to Conway. One is in terms of the improved digital connectivity, and it might be a bit early perhaps, but obviously given the fact that Alwyn's previous employment hasn't ensured good connectivity, I just wondered whether or not the fact that more people are working at home, whether that has had a detrimental effect in terms of connectivity going forward, because I'm sure members will be well aware that the importance of good connectivity in rural areas is key really to their future development. So I'd like perhaps if there's any initial information on that. The other question was really in terms of the strategic sites to be developed, as to whether that is dependent on us doing it in-house, or whether or not the growth deal have a project manager that assesses pan North Wales for appropriate sites going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch, Peter. Alwen, fysa chi'n hoffi ateb y rhan cyntaf o cwestiwn Peter Lewis?
Yeah, diolch. Councillor Lewis, it wasn't my my broadband that let me down, it was my laptop, so it wasn't the actual connection at this point. In terms of the digital connectivity programme, what we are looking to do through the investment from the growth deal is invest those final few communities that have been deemed as you know, left behind or uninvestable commercially, so that there is a strand of the investment through the connectivity programme which looks at getting fibre connectivity out to those final few communities, and we've got some quite clever mapping tools within the programme office that enable us to identify where those communities are. So I can confirm that that is part of the digital connectivity programme. I think we have seen a monumental shift from in the use and the behaviours of citizens who are now working from home regularly and need the fast and reliable broadband connections to enable that. I think that is a thing of the future as well. So it's most important that we provide connectivity that can enable the citizens of North Wales to be able to do that, whichever community they work in. In terms of the strategic sites programme, we have got a programme manager in the portfolio management office, so as part of my team looking at that programme, and we have the in terms of recruiting project managers, we do have the scope to recruit 2 project managers to come in and support the programme manager to deliver the programmes within those that strategic sites programme. So the resources will sit within my team to deliver.
Diolch, Alwyn. Are you happy with that, Peter?
Yeah, thank you very much for that reply, Alwyn.
Okay, iawn. Nesa, Cynghorwraig Anne McCaffrey.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks, guys, for the presentation. I mean, I think as a regional deal, this is incredibly exciting and has got a real potential for across the region sort of impact. But I have to say, I mean, I do have some reservations about what I see as inherent weaknesses for Conway, to be frank. I mean, I think we are a low GVA economy. We are a low wage economy. Our productivity is sort of weak. And when I look at the sort of the projects and the distance of the majority of them, I mean, with the exception of the digital programme, I do actually worry about the long-term future impact for in-county high-value jobs that Jane sort of referred to. And I'm not sure perhaps if that's a question she might be able to answer in terms of what in-county high-value jobs does she actually see being real on the ground and within what sort of time frame. But the other question that I've got is about finance. I mean, Andrew has provided assurance that the 168k a year for the next 15 years that this is going to cost us in this authority is not particularly a concern. However, there is some sort of comment within the report that talks about a change in 2023. And talks about potentially a cutting off of 1.5% of what is our Welsh Government funding, if I've interpreted it correctly, which may well be another £3 million a year on costs on top. So when you add that into the equation, if I'm correct, I mean, again, given my concern about the inherent weaknesses, there's a disproportionately high impact in high GVA other counties, and our ability to pay and swallow something like a 3 million top slicing of our budget when we're already the second lowest of Wales, if I've got it right, is just a bit concerning. So 2 questions there. One on the high value jobs in county, in what time frame, and what happens in terms of funding if we sign this deal now in 2023. Thanks.
Diolch, Anne. Jane, would you like to come back first?
Yeah, I'll take that first one. Could I just warn Andrew that I'm going to turn to him for the second one? So in terms of the high value jobs, I think, as I was saying before, that the different projects are located all across the North Wales corridor. So the new build one that is in train for our county is the Tourism Academy one, which is about making the tourism industry in North Wales higher salary, higher value. So that in itself will support all those thousands of jobs in this county, potentially, who are linked to tourism. So there will be those benefits. I think the other brand new high value jobs that are coming, although they may look like they're not in the county, the Conway people are going to be just as much the beneficiaries of those as others. So, you know, there's a big project at the Optic outside St Asaph that you've heard of, a couple of big projects at Bangor Uni. And what we've seen through the pandemic is that people are no longer going to be commuting into offices, etc., to do all their work. They're going to be doing a lot of it from home. So I think although the actual facility might be in Bangor, might be outside St Asaph, those jobs will be just as available and just as attractive to Conway residents, and those residents won't be expected to be driving out of county in the way that they did before. We've had a separate piece of work commission that I'm looking forward to bringing to members soon by a company called Lichfields, which is looking at the impact of COVID specifically on Conway's economy. And it sees, because we are an out commuting county, so many of our people commute across the county border for work, it's saying that we are probably better positioned than many to benefit from this new shift in the way of working, and that this should kind of inform thinking around business clusters and creating office spaces nearer to people's locations and communities, etc. So there's all sorts of interesting things we're going to be able to do through the 15 years of this bid, both at a county and regional level, to support people in Conway to be able to access these jobs, but from closer to home. So I think in terms of the time frame, Councillor Anne, each project has its own time frame, and HEV has all the specifics on those, but the earliest coming through will start to get sign off in the spring. Well, they'll start the process in February, March next year. They're the very earliest. Some aren't going to go through that assurance process for another 2 or 3 years. So it just depends project by project. And I'm sure if there were any specific ones that you wanted to know about, and perhaps Hayes could put some timelines in the chat bar about which those are. But we're really keen to get out of the gates straight away and get some projects up and running within the first few months of the bid being signed. It just depends on the maturity of the project business cases. Andrew, could I come to you on that 2023 issue? That's not something I'm familiar with.
I'm kind of hoping that the project team may be able to help me out with that particular point, Jane.
Do you know something about a 2023 3 million, so an extra burden to the councils at that point?
No, I'm not aware of what that is referring to. Is it a specific section in the report?
Yeah, it is actually, Heather. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't sort of quoted it within my notes to myself, or otherwise I could point you exactly as to where it is. But it talks about apparently part of your funding model, I think, that started in this year for 3 years. I'm not sure if it was coming from Welsh Government direct. Basically, it was for a fixed 3-year period, and at the end of that period, that funding potentially would have to be found from elsewhere. And it was suggested within the detail of the report that a 1.5% top slice of councils would fund that. And that's what gave me a bit of alarm bells, because if I've got it right, that could be a commitment of something like £3 million a year.
Okay, yes, I think I can answer that question now, Jane. So yes, we have funding at the moment from WEFO European funding that's funding a proportion of the programme office costs, and the reference to 1.5% is not from the councils, but we will be looking to take 1.5% from the growth deal funding to support staffing arrangements from 2023 onwards. So it will come directly from the growth deal. It won't be additional costs to the individual councils.
That's quite clear then, because I thought I'd actually read elsewhere that, again, programme costs were not coming from within the growth deal. But what you're actually saying is, in fact, the 1.5% will be. Okay, thanks very much, Heather.
Iawn, okay, diolch yn fawr. Reit, nesaf mae gennau Cynghorydd Wyn Jones ac yna Cynghorydd Chris Hughes. Wyn.
Diolch Cadeirydd, ac eto diolch yn fawr i pawb am yr cyfriniadau bore yma. Gynna i un o ddau gwestiynau. Un ynglyn â ochr gwyrdd ac ynni adnewyddol. Hynny ydi, mae yna broblem yn rhanna o'r sir yma yn benodol lle does na ddim capacity yn y grid i allu gynhyrchu mwy o brosiectau heb fuddsoddi sylweddol yn y grid ei hun sydd all tu hwnt wir fel arfer i'r datblygwr ar raddfa bach. Fydd gyda ni fel rhanbarth wwan o gallu fuddsoddi yn y grid cenedlaethol i uwchraddio hwnnw ydy un cwestiwn o gynnau. A'r llall ydy o ran yr ochr twristiaeth, hynny ydy dwi'n chwilio am y gywirdeb o ran yr deuoliaeth yma rhwng gwella'r economi, codi cyfloga, ond hefyd buddsoddi mewn sector sydd ar y cyfan hefo cyfloga isel. Ydyn ni yn deud bod ni mond yn mynd i fuddsoddi mewn cynlluniau twristiaeth sydd yn mynd i roi cyfloga uwch na cyfartaledd, sydd yn amlwg yn beth da efo swyddi tymhorol, ond hyd y gwelai mae hynny'n yn brosiectau prin. Neu ydyn ni hefyd yn mynd i fod yn buddsoddi mewn cynlluniau twristiaeth arferol sydd yn dueddol o fod yn dymhorol ac yn dymher ac yn dueddol o fod efo cyfloga is a cyfartaledd sydd yn mynd i weithio yn erbyn be da ni'n drio wneud, sef codi cyfloga cyfartaledd draws gogledd. Diolch Cadeirydd.
Iawn, diolch fawr Wyn. Jane, wedi di ateb?
Can I take the tourism one first?
Yes.
And give them a chance to think about the grid one. So the tourism project, Wyn, it's predominantly skills focused. So this is about bringing extra capability and improving the skill level of tourism business owners and their workforce to enable them to grow and take their businesses to the next level. So it's about the capability of this sector to grow. So rather than investing in tourism projects specifically, I want to build a such and such to attract visitors, there is no defined fund within the projects for that. Where tourism businesses might be able to get funding of that kind is through other themes such as decarbonisation, etc. So or even as a side deal to the growth deal, possibly transportation projects to bring more people in out of season to reduce the seasonality, etc. So through the themes of the project, better digital connectivity, decarbonisation, better transport connectivity, tourism, those are being developed partially with the tourism sector in mind to make it less seasonable, more resilient, and to enable it to grow, but to underpin it for that sector to take the next step in North Wales, we've got to invest in skills. That's the big transformation that we can deliver in North Wales, and that's why we've developed this academy project, which is so innovative, which is about taking our private sector business leading facilities in North Wales, supporting them to deliver frontline accredited training to the level that the private sector needs, and back that up through the academic hub at Ross-on-Sea. That's the kind of intention of that project. Heath, on the grid one. Are you just on mute, Heath, at the minute?
Thank you, Jane. I am the Heiro'r Cynghorydd, dwi'n mynd I ateb hwn yn Saesneg. So yes, we know that capacity to the grid is an issue across North Wales, and while the growth deal funding isn't necessarily going to be investing in upgrading the national grid infrastructure, one of the projects, the Smart Local Energy project, is specifically looking at whether we can develop local solutions. So projects where energy might be generated locally in a community, and then through a smart grid solution, it can be either used or stored locally for use at another time, so potentially use of batteries, etc. So it's more focused on those local projects where energy can be generated and stored and shared in a smarter way, rather than upgrading the national infrastructure, which would be beyond the financial envelope that we have, quite frankly.
Okay, thanks, Jane.
Austin, you're muted again.
Right, yes, I know. I've got a low battery, and not just me, but the computer as well. Okay, Cynghorydd Chris Hughes ac yna Cynghorydd Ifor Lloyd.
Thanks, Chair. And can I say, I think we should all be really supportive of this proposal today. And did steal a lot of my thunder. I think that, this has been a long time in the coming. It's disappointing that it's not as much as we would have hoped. But I think also there are some areas we need to be mindful of and we need to be concerned about. For example, our focus in Conway does still appear to be agri-foods and tourism. I appreciate Jane has talked a lot about people being able to travel to the east and travel to the west, and we've had aerospace to the east for the last 15 years, and we haven't seen the migration of people to work in the way that we'd have hoped. Certainly their employment agencies are based in Cheshire and the Merseyside area, which is where a large proportion of their staff tend to come from, from my conversations with people at that site. I'm also concerned about the fact that if you look at the report, it tells us how much each county is going to be paying and contributing to this. And I appreciate that it's based on population, but you can see within the report clear sites and clear projects in Denbighshire who will be paying less than us, and in Ynys who will be paying less than us. The bulk of the jobs appear to be in the land and property area, and we're not identifying any sites within Conway within that. The best, I know that in the current draft LDP, we only have 2.18 hectares of land identified for commercial development or business growth. And the best site that we probably have in the county, or one of the best sites, is the Brickworks, which has been earmarked for waste transfer site, which in light of this, if we are to try and bring projects in, seems even more ridiculous than it did last week. Jane, there seems to be a conflict between something you said earlier and something Delith said. Delith was quite clear that new projects that haven't been discussed, that aren't already in the pipeline and in the document, can't come forward without the agreement of all the other authorities across North Wales, so that there can be no surprises, no big bills. Yet you mentioned that we could be bringing back along projects that we've never even thought about yet. So that does seem to be a bit of a conflict there, and I'd like some clarity around that. Otherwise, yeah, there's a lot of positives within the report, but I think, and I'm very grateful to Delith again for bringing forward the plan for scrutiny, because I think that is really important. We have to be able to scrutinize this as a county rather than as a region, and ensure that the impact that we are hoping will come does actually materialize. But one thing I just wanted to point out, and I think it is something, we're envisaging within the report a maximum of 4,210 jobs across North Wales being created by by the growth deal. Just 380 of them are in the agri-food tourism area, and the bulk do seem to be in areas which we don't seem to appear to have specific projects covering. So that does concern me. Yet we're going to have to find things that we haven't been able to find in the last 4 years, which should be a worry to all of us.
Iawn, Chris, can I ask Jane to come in?
Yes, happy to. Thank you, Chair. So I think it's just taking that last point about the new jobs and things, Chris. I think it's important that we recognise that this deal, it does two things. It introduces brand new projects and brand new jobs. So something like Morlais, off the coast of Anglesey, you know, world first technology, positions North Wales as a centre for renewable technologies, etc. It's new, nobody's done it before, never mind us, and there will be brand new jobs there. So you've got that kind of project. On the other hand, you've got sectors where we can see opportunities for growth, where there have been barriers to growth, and where we're going to focus on taking away those barriers so that existing businesses can grow. And that's where you see that the agri-food sector, for example. So I was disappointed that you felt it wasn't perhaps useful for us to be looking at agri-food, but just in Conway County, just in our county, we have 1,250 farm businesses. Now, the kind of initiatives we're putting in around the agri-food will enable each of those businesses, if it wants to access new research, new facilities, new technology, to expand businesses in new directions, to diversify, to become more productive, to make their land more productive. Now, they won't be recorded as new jobs, but they will become more sustainable. Those farm businesses can get down from parents to the next generation. So we address the succession issues. They can generate a much better return for their families, so it becomes more of a healthy living wage rather than subsistence wage. So I think it's really important that when we look at growth, it's not just all about the new stuff. For us, it is just as important to enable the existing business base to grow and to deliver additional jobs and higher value salaries from the businesses that are already here. That's one of the things I'm really passionate about with this deal. I apologise, Chris, for the confusion I caused with the that no new projects can come in. So this deal is 15 programmes. Those programmes are absolutely set, and the big projects within them are completely set. Now, if we dreamt up something absolutely crazy and said we wanted to build some sort of spaceport on the Tae Fluid in Kimmel Bay, and Councillor Nigel said, I want to see this in the growth deal, we would have to say no, because there is no new project of that scale that could come in now at this stage. The whole deal has been agreed on the projects that are in it. However, the land and property project that has been designed to be a long-term mechanism for bringing sites forward in North Wales, and those sites are not predetermined. So what we've done is we've said the first batch of sites that we can see coming forward, the likes of Warren Hall and the Bottle Withen, we've known those for years. Major barriers for those coming forward commercially. There needs to be this market failure, needs to be public sector intervention. They will be sort of first out of the gate, if you like. But the way in which those projects will work is through recycling the funding. So the region, through the growth deal, will invest to help bring that site forward. Once it is built, making a return, the money comes back into the region. The region then has the pot topped up, and the region can say which sites it wants to do next. So on that specific project, that was the one I was referring to with land and property, over 15 years, if we see a site that is of regional significance, then we can make the case to say, can this come into phase 2 or phase 3 or whichever it is of the recyclable land and property scheme. The irony for Conwy is that our top scheme, so right before we started this growth deal, in the early summer of 2016, working with Rob Dix and various others across the region, we prioritised all the sites across North Wales, and that priority list was signed off by the Ambition Board. And the top site in Conway was Penmine Road at the Conway Morva. That was pre-growth deal. It was such a high priority that the region signed off us being able to access European money.
The way that new projects come in is that the board can include them as long as they are within the parameters of the overarching business plan. So I don't think there's any conflict there between what Jane and I have said. If it's something completely left field and outside those parameters, then they can't do it. But if it fits in with the parameters which have been agreed, then they can without it coming back to individual authorities.
Diolch, Delys. Chris, do you want to come back quickly?
Yeah, but just very quickly. I completely understand what Jane was saying about the fact that there will be sustainability of existing jobs, and I'm and that it could well lead to increased, but that does buck the trend a little bit, because we tend to find that throughout we've had lots of schemes like Welcome Host and many other tourism initiatives to raise the quality of tourism offer within the area. And as a result, we have seen a significant increase in the number of people coming into North Wales and coming into Conwy. That's clear. But what we haven't seen is a corresponding increase in salaries. People who have seen businesses that have seen this increases pre-COVID were still paying minimum wage. And there is that. That's the thing you've got to get over. There is, whether businesses will actually start to see that, yes, we're making more money, we should start to pay our staff more, or whether that mentality of, well, we only have to pay minimum wage will continue. And how we get around that is the only way we get around that is to create a significant amount of opportunity for people who feel they're being undervalued to move to alternative employment and create a market which ensures that people have to pay the going rate, not just for their industry but for the area, in order to retain the staff that they train and employ. And I'm just wondering where that's coming from, if you get what I'm saying. In the past we had.
Okay, Chris.
I think it's really important that we do address this. In any sector and any industry, you will always have the entry-level jobs. You're always going to have that. You're never going to start with an industry of that kind where you're going to come in on a massive salary. No. The problem previously in previous generations is you came in at low salary, you got stuck at low salary. What we've seen happen in recent years is already growth in salaries, and so. I think if you just focus on the minimum wage ones, you miss what's happening further up the chain. I think some of you here will have heard me say before, Zip World have 6 posts on the payroll that is paid over 100,000. Now, that would have been unthinkable a generation ago. So already with the tourism that is here, we have jobs that people can aspire to and grow to, because there's all those other jobs between minimum wage and 100,000. That's what we're trying to get to, is having more opportunities for the higher level jobs. So you might start at minimum wage, low salary, but you've got somewhere to go. And in order to have somewhere to go, you need to go beyond Welcome Host. You need proper accredited training, degree level apprenticeships, all sorts of research and development kind of initiatives going on, so that you transform this sector into something really high value. And don't forget, this year, Conwy County made only just under £1 billion from tourism. Again, even 2 years ago, we were around the 850 million mark. In 2 years, we've grown it to just under £1 billion. It is growing, this industry, and we want to make sure that the businesses are there, that have the support they need to be able to take advantage of that growth and to put the skills around it, so that people have that career structure where they can aspire to those big salaries within tourism, living within the county.
Okay, diolch yn fawr.
Can I briefly come back on that?
Very briefly, Chris.
I get the point that you're making, Jane, and I don't want to labour the point, but if you go back just 10, 15 years, we had Dolgarrog Aluminium, we had Quinton Hazels, we had Hot Point, all almost not that much above entry level, many significantly unskilled jobs. But the salaries, the pay levels in those places were significantly higher than the entry-level jobs were at that time. And people had that opportunity to move around. What we're seeing now is more as the entry-level jobs, or many of those jobs that were around, that were factory jobs that were higher than the entry level, are sticking at around minimum wage in an awful lot of cases. And if it wasn't for the minimum wage, I wonder where we would be. But,
okay, then, Chris, I think you've made your point now, and I've got a long list of people who want to talk. Okay?
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Right. I've got Ifor Glyn Lloyd and then Gareth Jones.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Cadar. Da ni'n dechrau ama bod i ddim yn mynd I gael siarad. Thank you very much to Alwen and to Heath for their comprehensive work, and to Jane as well. Fair play. There's been a lot into this. Looking at future economic prospects, I've got a question for Alwyn. How closely are we working with Welsh Government with the national framework, with the renewable energy programme, which is very heavily tied in this sector? Do you know, Alwyn?
Alwyn?
Sorry, I was
Cysgu.
I was on mute drwy gynnau. Sorry, so dwi'n meddwl bod o'n deg I ddeud, I think it's worth saying we work really closely with Welsh Government generally. So since the beginning of the year when the programme office came into place, we developed a very close relationship with the Chief Regional Officer and her team in North Wales. And I think that's an important part of sort of recognising the priorities at the government level, and also the priorities for us in the region, and being able then to consolidate those priorities and effectively drive forward the messages from the region back into the government. And we've been doing that throughout the COVID period as well. And I think that in the first instance is recognised as a really strong relationship. In terms of renewables, I think there's probably a good opportunity moving forward to work more closely with Welsh Government on that specifically. We have a smart local energy project within the low carbon energy programme as part of the growth deal, and that smart low carbon energy project is conceptual at the moment. It needs significant amount of development work to understand how we apply the benefits of that project within the region in North Wales. We also need to identify partners that we can work with. So I think there is an opportunity there, and that is based on having a project that still has a lot of work to be developed. And I think, you know, moving forward, that focus on procurement and driving the right sort of interventions through our procurement processes so that we retain the value of the growth deal investment within the region and within our local communities to drive community wealth building and social value is a really key opportunity as well. We're in the process at the moment of looking for procurement expertise to support us on that piece of work.
Diolch Alwyn, ti'n hapus Glyn? Eivor, sorry.
Yndw, just un cwestiwn arall. Yeah, basically, what has changed during COVID, took over our lives, is the key growth drivers, basically, especially in light of macroeconomic trends. There's a lot changed since January, February. We did underpin quite a lot on the Anglesey Energy Wylfa Newydd as well. That's changed. So having gone through the EITB, this is what Chris Hughes was touching on, Councillor Chris Hughes, local jobs, vocational jobs have become few and far between. I mean, the old WDA model was to attract industry and then hope a large industry would attract small industry. And then basically you would have your drivers then for the non-academic workforce. And they are a step above, as Chris said, your minimum wage. So your skill or craftsman's level started there, and that was your your base for your skill set. How are we going to address that particular job growth regeneration? Is it something similar to the old WDA model, or did they just copy?
Jane,
Yeah, or was that a question to Jane? Sorry.
Yeah, Jane.
I'm not entirely sure I know the answer, Yvonne. Because it's part. I think there's like lots of slices of the pizza that form it all together. So it's why the growth deal's only part of the answer, because there's a whole skills programme around the growth deal that is about trying to do what you're talking about, that enables people to have the opportunities for their own kind of skills, interests, whatever, if they're vocational activities or whatever it might be. So I think in some instances it's about putting in a big capital project, and then you've got the jobs directly there, and then you work with the supply chain who support that big project. So that's a little bit like you were saying about the WDA with the big project and the little ones. So you've got that bit work on the supply chain, and then you need the work with the colleges to make sure you've got the young people coming through the apprenticeships to take advantage of it. So really we're trying to put lots of different interventions into place to do what you're just describing. It's not a kind of a single action that we're taking to do that, and that's why it's really difficult sometimes just to look at the growth deal, because it's about everything we do in the region around growth and skills, and collectively then you get benefited at all levels within the economy, you know, the entry levels as well as I said with the higher value jobs. I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, no, I just want to know where, because it's, if you're talking about slices of pizza, it was like a piece of the slice of pizza that's disappeared since the late 80s, early 90s. And I was just wondering what efforts have been made as part of this deal, which are not tourism. I do appreciate the side for the agri-food, having lectured into this facet myself in diversification, and that is a massive, massive part of a farmer's income these days, is where else they can pull money, because you can only do so much out of the land. I think the chair would agree with me there. I just want to know that there is a certain amount of children coming out of our schools in Conwy every year, and they don't want to go to university, and they're looking for somewhere to, and there was always that option when I was growing up, but that option seems to have diminished. So I was just wondering whether it was back on the menu, that's all. Diolch yn fawr iawn chi, thank you.
Diolch Tifwr. Reit ta, y cynghorydd Gareth Jones, then Harry Saville, then Ronnie Hughes. Gareth.
Fara da, Cadeirydd, a diolch fawr iawn chi am adael mi siarad ar mater sydd o dynged benolbwys i ddweud y gwir. Mae hwnna'n waith pwysig, mae'n brosiect pwysig tu hwnt. Ac fel cyn arweinydd sydd wedi cael rhywfaint o'r fraint o gael cyfrannu rhywfaint ag at datblygu'r prosiect, dwi'n hynod ddiolchgar o gael cyfle i ddweud gair yma. Gai gydnabod, a dwi'n gwybod wrth gwrs am y gwaith da mae'n swyddogion ni, wedi gyflawni, a nid yn unig yma yng Nghonwy, ond ar draws y gogledd, a mae wedi dod ar llawer iawn o bethau da at ei gilydd, y cydweithio yn un o bethau pwysica ohonyn nhw. Ac dwi yn cydnabod hynny ac yn gwerthfawrogi y gwaith sydd wedi digwydd. Serch hynny, mae yna newid mawr, a'r newid mawr yna wrth gwrs wedi dod yn sgil Covid. Ac cwestiwn sydd genna i ydy un o'r anfanteision mwyaf sydd genna ni yng Ngogledd Cymru ac yma yng Nghonwy fel y gwyddon ni fel cynghorwyr ydy'r da ni'n diodda o beth sy'n cael ei alw yn blodi digidol. Ac mae o'n un o'r prosiectau pwysig yma, ac mae wedi cael ei rhoi ger bron y bore yma, mor bwysig ydy datblygu y cyswllt digidol yma, a fel bod o mwyaf effeithiol sydd yna. Ond yn dilyn Covid, mae'n amlwg bod hwn ddim yn rhywbeth allwch chi aros am ryw flwyddyn neu 2 neu 2 neu 15 mlynedd. Mae yna ddioddefaint rwan, gymellad yma'r cysylltiadau digidol yma yn y cwestiwn, a mae angen gweithredu rwan. Cwestiwn sydd gen i mewn ffordd ydy pam ddyliau ni dalu drwy y growth deal yma am gael cysylltiadau digidol effeithiol, sydd nid yn rhywbeth ddyliau ni dalu amdano fo drwy deal fel hyn, ond rhywbeth sydd yn heiddiant i ni. Ym mhob un cartra, ym mhob un busnes yma yng Ngogledd Cymru, ddyliau bod ni ddim yn diodda o'r tlodi digidol yma. Mae Llywodraeth San Steffan yn mynd i fuddsoddi, neu yn buddsoddi, 120 biliwn mewn rhyw gyswllt rheilffordd rhywle yn Lloegr, ymhell o Gymru, beth bynnag. Ond mae yna angen cyswllt llawer iawn mwy cyflym yma yng Ngogledd Cymru. a lle y Llywodraeth yn San Steffan ydy sicrhau bod nhw'n mynd i'r afal a'r tlodi yna, a ddylia bod nhw'n gwneud hynny yn sydd. Ddim yn lle ni ddylia fo bod, i atgoffa nhw, da ni'n deall pa mor anghyfrifol ydy'r Llywodraeth yn San Steffan, ond i lle nhw ydy dilifro ar hyn gyntaf bosib. A dwi ddim yn gweld y pwynt a pam bod rhaid i ni, drwy'r cyngor yma, dalu am rhywbeth yda ni'n ei heiddi beth bynnag. Heiddiant ydi o, a nid rhywbeth y dylia ni anelu a gweithio'n galad i sicrhau bod ein pobl ni yma yng Nghonwy ac ar draws Gogledd Cymru yn manteisio. Dwi yn teimlo dylia ni ail-edrych ar y rhan yma o'r cynllun deal yma, achos dwi'n teimlo os eith o drwy'r deal, mi fydd yna amser maith cyn y byddwn ni yn mynd i dweud, ia, mae'r cysylltiadau digidol yn dderbyniol yma yng Ngogledd Cymru. Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Diolch. Sgyn ti gwestiwn? Ti isio?
Wel, y cwestiwn ydy, o'n i ddylia ni ail ystyried y flaenoriaeth yna, a gyda ni fodlon aros i'r broses o'r deal mae wedi cymryd blynyddoedd i ni ddod lle rydyn ni. Mae'n gymryd eto i wella y cysylltiadau digidol yma. Ddylia bod yna weithredu uniongyrchol sydd bin gan Llywodraeth y Deyrnas Unedig i sicrhau bod yna gyfiawnder yma i bobl Gonwy a Gogledd Cymru. Ar hyn o bryd, a mae yna rannau o Lloegr wrth gwrs sy'n dioddau, dwi'n cydnabod hynny.
Na, pwynt dwi'n trio wneud, Gareth, ydy, sgyn ti cwestiwn penodol i un o'r swyddogion eich atab. Does a neb o Llywodraeth San Steffan yma i atab cwestiynau. So,
y cwestiwn dwi'n ofyn, fel cynghorydd etholedig, ddylia ni dalu am rhywbeth ddylia Llywodraeth San Steffan i ddilifro.
Jane, wedi di atab hwnna, sgolch chi dda.
Yes, I can try.
Yeah, if you can.
Two things. First of all, how does government make this happen? I suppose the first thing. So Councillor Gareth is saying government should pay for this. The way in which government does that is it makes pots of money available. It doesn't itself go out and put the wires in the ground. So it makes the pots of money available. It's up then to regions to bid for it. So the first pot of money that came available was for the local full fibre network. And North Wales got right out of the blocks and was one of the very first regions in the whole of the UK to get that money, which meant we started implementing faster connectivity to all our communities across North Wales, faster than other parts of the UK. No Conway money involved in that. It was government money. We were on the front foot because we got this new collaboration and we delivered that without having to wait for a growth deal. So some of that core activity around making communities have faster connections is already underway. In that programme, the very first county to get it in North Wales was Conway, because we were ready to go and the team were happy to work with us. So we're already seeing better connectivity. Of the pots of money that government makes available for that work Gareth's talking about, they are very specific. And we could see there are parts of our digital infrastructure that weren't covered by the existing pots of money government was making available. So we created our own project and said, government, if we just rely on you, there's a bit here that won't get done. So we're going to put a project together to get that other bit done that we think is important to our communities. We want to put that in our bid. Government said, yeah, we can recognise that. They've accepted that that should be part of our bid and they're going to put money in towards it. So where does Conway's money come in? Because Gareth's saying we're paying for this. The reason we're paying something is that if the government can make the money available, it's going to come through the deal, but we might not be able to afford it for 5 or 6 years because of the way the money comes in. All we're saying is that Conway's residents shouldn't wait a few more years. We want to go now. So if we want to put it in now, then Conway just needs to put in a bit of money to kind of front load it, to enable it to happen while we wait for, it's like a payday loan. You take a little bit of money out now, waiting for the money to come in from government that will pay for it. So it's government money. And the question about, well, why should we pay for it? We want to pay a little bit towards it to make sure our residents don't have to wait, because they shouldn't have to wait. They should get it now. It'll make their lives easier and their businesses more resilient.
Diolch fawr. Gareth?
Wel, diolch am yr ateb yna gan Jane, ac wrth gwrs ar y sail yna, fydwn ni disgwyl felly, bydd yna ddim ymdlodi digidol yng Nghonwy o fewn faint faint o amser, da ni ddim yn gwybod. Ond dwi'n derbyn y pwynt mae Jane yn ei wneud, ond hefyd, da ni'n dal i rotalu am beth dwi'n ei gydnabod sydd yn heiddiant. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
OK, diolch ti Gareth. Right, Councillor Harry, then Ronnie Hughes, Phil Capper, Brian Cossey, and Gronwy Edwards has joined us. And in between all these speakers, I'm hoping I'll get a proposal. Diolch yn fawr. Right, Harry.
Oh, thanks, Chair. I think you've just answered the question I had for you. I'll propose 5 recommendations in the report.
Diolch yn fawr, Harry. Right, Councillor Ronnie Hughes. Councillor Ronnie, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Good lad.
Look, there's an opportunity here for the authority, and we all have reservations. I've had reservations since the start of this scheme, but it's whether it's unique that everything has fallen into place. Other authorities in the whole of the UK would be absolutely biting everybody's hand off for this scheme. No doubt about it. There are going to be flaws in the scheme. We've got to be realistic. You know, the 1 or 2 things that do bother me, I'll just say them now, about the rural areas. I know there's 1,250 jobs. Where we're going to go into Glynllifon, how's that going to link in with Conway? I don't know if there's any been consideration to have a satellite of Glynllifon up in Llanrwst. I don't know if we've got over the problem with Glasgow yet. And the interesting thing I'd like to ask Jane, the one thing that even though we've had European funding over the years, the GDP has never moved. It's stuck at 70. Now, Jane was saying about these well-paid jobs. Is there any possibility, and I can see Sam's there as well, the leader. We were talking this morning about the corporate plan. Is there anything we can do about target setting about the GDP? We need feedback from the board itself, how we're doing and where we're going. And I think one of the indicators for us is the GDP. We will find out then if these are well-paid jobs. I have reservations about that, but I'd like to see these figures coming back from the board through scrutiny to let us know what's happening. You know, and on a positive note, on the carbon issues, we're going to have a major planning application for the new wind farms coming down the straight towards Llanfyfechan and Penmawr. These are going to link in for what we have. These are going to be well-paid jobs. So that's why we need, if these well-paid jobs, if the money's coming into Conway or North Wales, but sometimes a lot of these jobs go out to other people living in England. But there are opportunities. And the one thing I'd like to just finish on, I was speaking to a councillor from Anglesey last week. It looks like Wilver is back on the agenda. So there are opportunities for us. But I would like, will there be a possibility of some of these schemes that you have the main, you know, like Glynllifon? Will there be opportunities to have a satellite of that in Llanrwst? Or, you know, wherever it's going to be based, that we get involved with the authorities. But what I've got to say is, look, take it. There's nothing else there. We have to go with it. We might not like it, but with some things, it's going to be the benefit for our authority and for the whole of North Wales. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Ronnie. I think that idea you've got about using Glasgow as a satellite of Glynllifon is a very good idea. Jane, is there anything you would like to comment?
Actually, if you don't mind, I'll bring Heath in because Heath's been very close to the Glynllifon project. Could you talk to us about that, Heath?
Thank you, Jane. It's not part of the initial scope of the project to look at satellites. because the initial capital investment is funding the facility in Glynllifon, but it's certainly something that we could discuss with the project team, with Group Llandrillo Menai. If that is as successful as we hope, then why not have the potential explored for other satellite sites across North Wales? So it's something we'll pick up with the team, but there's nothing in the current plan which is about the initial site.
Okay, diolch Ed. Do you want to come back, Ronnie? Are you happy? Okay, thank you. I can see that Councillor Sam Rowlands has just put his hand up, so I'm going to give him the opportunity to say a few words. Sam.
Diolch yn fawr, Chair. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so far for the discussion and the debate on this, and just come off the back of Councillor Ronnie's comments there, which is, this is a growth deal. It's going to be good for North Wales. I can appreciate why some members may have some reservations, but can also certainly want to see this over the line for the sake of North Wales and for Conwy specifically. But just a comment I was going to mention, I think Jane may have said it right at the start of the presentation, which is this will pave the way for other funding to come through. We see the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is the money which UK government is looking to spend post-Brexit. If we can show as a region that we're mature enough to come together as we have done over these years and to deliver on projects for the region, then I would be I'd be very surprised if governments do not look again to the region to deliver other projects in the future. And I think there's just there's a bigger picture to this. This is a growth deal, which is fantastic. Huge investment coming into the region, but it paves the way for future investment as well. So I think I just want to make that point, Chair, that let's look at this deal today. Let's support it as you have been doing, but let's also look to the future beyond this growth deal as a one-off, and there's going to be more in the pipeline as we continue working together across the region in this way. Thanks, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Sam. Right. Thank you for being patient. Councillor Phil Capper, then Brian Cossey and Gronwy Hughes, and I'm still looking for a seconder to Harry Savile's proposal, by the way. Capper, Mr. Capper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you might have the seconder in a moment. I welcome this report, and I'd like to thank the officers for it. I see opportunities within the parameters of the various programmes. I mean, for example, the smart local energy schemes and local green community energy schemes. There are opportunities there which will provide well-paid jobs, hopefully. So consequently, I'd like to second Councillor Harry's proposal.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Capper. Councillor Brian Cossey, and then finally Councillor Gronwy.
Beaten by the last speaker, Mr. Chairman, I was going to second it as well.
Thank you.
No, I mean, we've got to remember that this is a 15-year plan, and it's very exciting stuff going to be going on. The plan will change. If you think back a few years, we wouldn't have been having this meeting on Zoom. Life moves at a pace, so the plan will change. And I'd just like to thank Delith for her presentation, because I had a number of questions about the scrutiny of of this whole scheme, and to hear that we are going to have quarterly reports to our committee, I think puts my mind at rest that they won't be running off with everything, and that we will have input into it regardless.
Diolch yn fawr, Brian. Right, ac I ddiweddu, Cynghorydd Gronwy.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Sorry I was late, Charlie, but I had the PSB meeting with Denbighshire earlier on. And on the point, I came in when Carlos was talking about connectivity, and I think this is a very well-made point, and we can't make it often enough. And that was part of the discussion in the PSB, because from the PSB, we've asked for the BT and Openreach to come to us and explain, their vagaries of how they deliver superfast across the both counties, because certainly our experience is that they're too far away, they're too distant, they don't understand the issues of connectivity in areas like North Wales. So that is very important that we have that debate with BT and Openreach. I think this is a very exciting prospect of funding that's coming, but also at the same time is how it's going to be delivered. I have some reservations about where that funding will come. Will it come direct to the regions, or will it have to come through the Welsh Assembly government? Because certainly the messages I'm getting so far is the Welsh government want the money to go to them and then directed back to the regions in different parts. We've also got talk about setting up joint corporate joint committees, which is another arm of gerrymandering, in my opinion, where the funding will get convoluted and difficult to access. So I think as Conwy, we need to make a very strong point that we are capable of delivering funding in our own areas. We have the experience, we've done it for many, many years with European funding. So I think we need to make sure that Welsh Government realise that the funding has to come direct to the regions and not be sort of siphoned off for projects down in Cardiff Bay and the other regions of South Wales.
Iawn, ti'n gorffan?
Do.
Oh, da iawn. Short and sweet and to the point. Or maybe not. Iawn, oce, wel, ga I ddiolch i chi gyd am eich presenoldeb heddiw ac eich cyfraniadau, enwedig i Fran Lewis, Andrew Kirkham, Jane Richardson, Delith Jones, a diolch arbennig i Alwen Williams a Hedd Vaughan Evans am ymuno efo ni heddiw. Ga i hefyd diolch i yn y cefndir yn fan hyn, Sally, Dawn a Pam. O, sori, ac dwi'n hedeg ymlaen yn hyn yn fan hyn. Mae gynnon ni proposal a mae gynnon ni eilydd, felly da ni am fynd am y vot, so dyn drosodd i Sally.
Councillor Phil Capper.
Phil?
Phil Capper.
For.
Councillor Jeff Corrie.
For.
Councillor Brian Cossey.
For.
Councillor Pauline Heap-Williams.
For.
Councillor Andrew Hinchliffe.
For.
Councillor Chris Hughes.
Plaid.
Councillor Wyn Ellis-Jones.
Oblaid.
Councillor Peter Lewis.
For.
Councillor Yvonne Lloyd.
Oblaid.
Councillor Anne McCaffrey.
For.
Councillor Dave Rees.
For.
Councillor Austin Roberts.
Oblaid.
Councillor Harry Saville.
For.
Councillor Andrew Wood.
For.
And Councillor Adam Wynne.
Oblaid.
Yeah, that's carried, Chair.
Na fo, diolch fawr iawn chi gyd, a gobeithio gwch chi gyd pnawn da. Hwyl fawr.